So this is death speaking, and he's showing to Savitri all the forms in this dream twilight of the earthly real. And we said this is probably the longest sentence in Savitri. We stopped in the middle. Now I'm going to read the whole sentence, starting from line 127 on page 644. Look on these forms that stay a while and pass, these lives that long and strive, then are no more, these structures that have no abiding truth, the Saviour creeds that cannot save themselves, but perish in the strangling hands of the years, discarded from man's thought, proved false by time. Philosophies that strip all problems bare, but nothing ever have solved since earth began. And sciences, omnipotent in vain, by which men learn of what the suns are made, transform all forms to serve their outward needs, ride through the sky and sail beneath the sea, but learn not what they are or why they came. These polities, architectures of man's brain that bricked with evil and good, wall in man's spirit, and fissured houses, palace at once and jail, rot while they reign and crumble before they crash. These revolutions, demon or drunken god, convulsing the wounded body of mankind, only to paint in new colors an old face. These wars, carnage triumphant, ruin gone mad, the work of centuries vanishing in an hour, the blood of the vanquished, and the victor's crown, which men to be born must pay for with their pain. The hero's face divine on satyr's limbs, the demon's grandeur mixed with the demigods, the glory and the beasthood and the shame. Why is it all? The labor and the din, the transient joys, the timeless sea of tears, the longing and the hoping and the cry, the battle and the victory and the fall, the aimless journey that can never pause, the waking toil, the incoherent sleep, song, shouts and weeping, wisdom and idle words, the laughter of men, the irony of the gods. Where leads the march? Whither the pilgrimage? Who keeps the map of the route or planned each stage? Or else, self-moved, the world walks its own way, or nothing is there but only a mind that dreams. The world is a myth that happened to come true, a legend told to itself by conscious mind, imaged and played on a feigned matter's ground, on which it stands in an unsubstantial vast. So I think that we read, or at least I explained, up to the first line on page 645. He has spoken about all these forms which are there in that symbol world, these lives, these structures, mental structures, creeds, philosophies, sciences. All these things, the sciences help men, enable them to ride through the sky and sail beneath the sea, but they don't learn, they haven't learned what they are and why they are here. We'll go on from there. Dhanalakshmi?
These qualities, architectures of man's brain, that bricked with evil and good, wall in man's spirit, and fisher houses, palace at once and jail. Rock white they reign and crumble before they crash. These revolutions, demon or drunken god, convulsing the wounded body of mankind, only to paint in new colors and old face.
Yes. So this word politis, it's one that Sri Aurobindo uses in his writings, but it's not very familiar to us. It means political systems. These are architectures of men's brain. These are things that have been thought up by human beings. And because they've been thought up by human beings, they are, these structures are made up of evil and good. But they wall in, they limit the free movement of the human spirit by saying what is correct and what is not correct. No? But he says that they are fissured houses. They are structures, they're built with bricks, no? But they have cracks in the wall. They are going to break apart. But for human beings, as long as they last, they are both palaces, splendid homes for us to live in, but at the same time they imprison us. They are jails. And while they rule, while they reign, they are already rotting and beginning to crumble before they actually fall down. We can see this in the political systems that are ruling in the world today. They have good qualities and bad qualities, but all of them are limiting human freedom, and they are decaying.
But he talks about only the qualities, not other ideals.
Well, he spoke about savior creeds and philosophies and sciences, and now he's come to polities. And under polities, he's also going to speak about revolutions and wars. Yeah.
So politics and politics both are same or different?
It's from the word, the same word, actually, which comes from the Greek word polis, which means a city. So in order to organize a city, you need a political organization of some kind. And in Sri Aurobindo's book on Indian culture, he's got one whole section on Indian polity. What were those social and political systems which prevailed in ancient India? Very, very interesting.
This revolution demand or drunken god, convulsing the wandered body of mankind, only to paint in new colors on old face.
Yes. So when you have polities, after some time people get tired of them and they want to change everything. Then there may be a revolution, a violent overthrow of the government and of the system. And so he says those revolutions, those overturnings, they seem to be like something demonic. But it may be rather, it is a drunken god. It's something divine, but it's a divine intoxication, like the intoxication of Dionysus or Bacchus. No, we can't tell. Either way, what they do is they convulse, they cause convulsions. If you have some kind of seizures and sickness, they convulse the wounded body of mankind. Human beings suffer, the human race suffers through these convulsions. Terrible upheavals. And what is the outcome? He says, it is only to paint in new colors an old face. It will be very much the same, just dressed up or painted anew. No? You like to read? Yes?
These wars, carnage triumphed, ruin gone mad, the work of centuries vanishing in an hour, the blood of the vanquished and the victor's crown, which men of the born must pay for with their pain. The hero's face divine on satire's limbs, the demon's grandeur mixed with the demigods, the glory of the beasthood and the shame.
Yes. So this particularly is about wars. Wars which are examples of carnage triumphant. Carnage when there's a lot of killing. Ruin gone mad. The work of centuries vanishing in an hour. It's as if it's just what we are seeing happening today, but these things have always been happening. There are people who are vanquished, they are overcome, defeated, so they pay with their blood, they die. There are other people who are the victors. But even that crown of the victor, further generations are going to have to pay for. There will be some kind of revenge taken for that victory. They will have to pay for it with their pain, the future generations. So these things show us the heroes face divine, the wonderful people that we admire because they lead us to victory, they do such heroic deeds. But on satyrs' limbs, a satyr, the body of a satyr, these are these mythological creatures from Greek and Roman mythology. They have something like a human face, but they have animal skins, rough furry skins and pointed ears and often tails, and cloven hooves like goats, and they behave like animals. So there's both aspects. There's the grandeur, but it's a demon's grandeur, and it's mixed with the grandeur of the demigod, the half-divine being, the hero. So they have all these aspects of glory and beasthood when men behave like animals, and shame. Who's sitting behind here? Gumsun, would you read?
Why is it all the labor and the theme, the tangential joys, the timeless sea of tears, the longing and the hoping and the cry, the battle and the victory and the fall, the aimless journey that can never pause, the waking toil, the incoherent sleep, song, shouts and weeping, wisdom and idle words, the laughter of man, the irony of the house.
Thank you. So that's where this long sentence ends. So it ends with this question: what is the meaning of it all? And of course, death wants to suggest that it has no meaning at all. All this labor and this din, this noise. There are some joys, but they pass very quickly, whereas that timeless sea of tears is always there. Throughout all human history, there's been the same pattern of longing and hoping, and the cry, the call, the appeal, the battle, the victory, and the fall. It seems like an aimless journey, that it's not going anywhere, but it never seems to stop. It involves for human beings, when they're awake, a great deal of hard effort, the waking toil. And then when they sleep, what mixed up, meaningless dreams they have, the incoherent sleep. There are songs, there are shouts of triumph perhaps, or excitement, there's weeping, there's even wisdom, but there's also all the many idle words. Men somehow manage to laugh, and maybe the gods are laughing at them.
He is picturing the darker side of mankind.
But of course, it's quite convincing, no? When we read this long list, we can recognize all these things. It will be very interesting to see what is Savitri's answer. Ganga Lakshmi.
Where leads the march without the pilgrimage, who keeps them up on the route of plan each stage.
So this is a big question. Where is it all going? Is it a march or is it a pilgrimage? Where is it going? And is anybody keeping track? Who keeps the map of the route? Is there a map? Has somebody planned every stage of all this? Is there a plan? And then he gives another answer. Dawn.
Or else self-moved the world walks its own way, or nothing is there but only a mind that dreams. The world is a
a myth.
that happened to come true. A legend told to itself by conscious mind, imaged and played on a faint metal's ground, on which it stands in an unsubstantial vast.
Yes. So is there somebody who's keeping track and who knows where all this is leading? Or is the world just moving like that, on its own way? Self-moved, the world walks on its own way. This seems to be the materialist position, no? That we don't need to say, is there anybody who knows, or was there any plan, or is it all going some... No, it's just going on mechanically in its own way. Or perhaps there isn't really anything going on at all. Perhaps it is only an illusion. Perhaps there's nothing there, only a mind that's dreamed all this. And the best thing we can do is just wake up from the dream. If it's like that, maybe the world is just a myth, something unreal, untrue, that just happens to have assumed for us some kind of reality. It's a story, a legend, told to itself by conscious mind, our minds. And it's just being pictured, played out, this story, on the ground of matter, which he says is feigned. Matter isn't real either. It's just a pretense. There's no reality to it. There's no real substantiality. The world stands in an unsubstantial vast. There's nothing really supporting it. It's all just an illusion, a dream, a story. Human beings have accepted these explanations, these ideas. It could be like that. People have based their whole lives, whole philosophies that have influenced many lives on ideas like this.
Why he said it's capital V, vast? That means something greater, no?
Yes. Yeah. There's matter is only a pretense, and then there's this vast, unsubstantial. That might be the only reality. That immensity. So now he's going to speak about mind. Do you like to read? Yes.
Mind is the author, spectator, actor, stage. Mind only is, and what it thinks is seen. If mind is all, renounce the hope of bliss. If mind is all, renounce the hope of truth. For mind can never touch the body of truth. And mind can never see the soul of God. Only his shadow it grasps, nor hears its laugh. As it turns from him to the vain seeming of things.
Yes, well, there's the full stop. Let's pause there. So this is another theory that people have had, that there's only this mind, no? And everything that we see is a product of mind. Mind is the author, is also the one who is watching, the spectator. Mind is the actor, acting out all the parts. Mind is even the stage on which everything is worked out. Mind is the only thing that really exists. And what it thinks, we see around us as reality. That's a possibility. If mind is everything, then you can give up all hope of bliss. If mind is really everything, you can renounce the hope of truth. Because mind can never touch the body, the material reality of truth. And mind can never see the soul of God, the essence of the divine. Mind only grasps the shadow of the divine. It doesn't hear the divine laughing at him as it turns from him to the vain seeming of things, as mind turns away from God to these illusory appearances of things. So he says you may base yourself on mind and think that that is something real, but it too has no essential reality. Dr. Palani.
Yeah. Mind is a tissue oval of light and shade, where right and wrong have soon the mingled parts. For mind is nature's marriage of convenience between truth and falsehood, between joy and pain. Their struggling pair no court can separate. Each thought is a gold coin with a bright alloy, and error and truth are its observe and reverse. This is the spirit, this is the imperial index of the brain, and of this kind is all its currency.
Thank you. So it's as if mind is a kind of weaving, a fabric woven of dualities, of light and shade, right and wrong. This is very typical of mind, or at least of mind as we know it, that it deals in opposites, division and separation and duality, that we can't say yes to anything without automatically saying no to the opposite. So it's as if all this is woven together, and right and wrong, this pair of opposites, have sewn together their mingled parts. It's even difficult to separate them. Our mind is like a marriage, not a love marriage, but a marriage of convenance, he said, one that is made for convenience, for profit. It's a marriage between truth and falsehood, joy and pain. And all these dualities, it's like two people in a marriage constantly fighting, but no court can possibly separate them. And the currency of mind is thoughts. So each thought is like a gold coin, lovely gold coin, but mixed in with it, there's some alloy, some less valuable coin. But it's nice and shiny, that alloy. And if you have a coin, it has two sides. There's an obverse and a reverse. And you can never really separate them. They go together. So all these coins, the place where we make coins is called a mint. And what comes out of the mint is a mintage, a particular set of coins. No? So this is the imperial mintage of the brain, as if the brain is an emperor and he's saying, this is the coinage, this is what will have value. No? And all its currency is of this kind, this mixed kind. Some gold, some alloy, some truth, some falsehood, some right, some wrong, some joy, some pain, some light, some shade. Joel.
Think not to plant on earth the living truth, or make of matter's world the home of God. Truth comes not there, but only the thought of truth. God is not there, but only the name of God.
So he's trying to discourage Savitri. That all these high ideals you have of truth and love and beauty, don't think that you can establish the living truth on earth in the world of matter. No. You can't make a material world the home of God. It's not possible. Truth doesn't even enter in there. You can only perhaps have some thought or idea of truth. The presence of God cannot be there in the material world. Only the name of God. Sergei.
If self there is, it is bodiless and unborn. It is no one, and it is possessed by none. And what shalt thou then build thy happy world? Cast off thy life and mind, then art thou self, and all seeing, omnipresent star alone.
Yes. If there is a self, if there's really a true self to this world, it doesn't have any body. It's not born. It doesn't belong in the material world of forms and birth and death. That self doesn't have any person. It is no one. And nobody can possess it. So where is the basis? If none of these things are real, what are you going to build your happy world on? It's better you renounce your life and your mind. Then you can be the self. Then you can be this all-seeing omnipresence spread everywhere. Stark, it means bare, naked, unadorned, alone. You have to cast off all these appearances, all these illusions, if you want to be the self. Mila.
If God there is, he cares not for the world. All things he sees with calm, indifferent gaze. He has doomed all hearts to sorrow and desire. He has bound all life with his implacable laws. He answers not the ignorant voice of prayer.
So now he's made a transition now. He's going to talk about the nature of God. If there is any God, any divine being, he has no interest in the world. He doesn't care a thing. He just watches everything that's happening here with this calm, indifferent gaze. He's not interested. He doesn't care what happens here. He's already decided. He's set it up like this, that all hearts have to suffer sorrow and desire. He's organized it like that. He's set up all life under these implacable laws, these laws that have no mercy, they can't be satisfied. You may pray to him, but he will not answer. Sarojini.
Eternally, while the age toil beneath, unmoved, untouched by out that he has made. He sees as many details,
mid. It's like amid, in the middle of.
The star, the animals, agony, and the fact of man.
Immeasurably.
Which he accepts thy thought. His sultry joy needs not thy love.
Yes, when we try to imagine what God is like with our human perceptions, we may come to some kind of picture like this. There's some powerful being who is eternal. He is not affected by the movements of time here in our material universe. And he's not touched by, he doesn't have feeling for anything that he has made. All his creations, he does not care about them. No? He sees everything that happens. He sees the fall of the sparrow and the sufferings of the animals, the fate of man. But these are just tiny, tiny, tiny little details amid all this vast universe, all these galaxies. No? He's wise beyond anything that we can measure. And he's so vast and powerful that we can't even think what he is like. And he is in a state of bliss and delight, all alone. He doesn't need you to love him or not to love him. It doesn't matter at all to him. Chandra.
His truth in human thinking cannot turn. If thou desire truth, then still they might forever light by the turn unseen light.
Yes. The truth of God cannot dwell, it cannot live in human thinking. We can't grasp it. If you want truth, Savitri, he says, then you have to silence your mind, not just for a few minutes while you meditate, but forever. Obliterate it, kill it. Let your your mind be slain, destroyed by that silent, unseen light of the divine consciousness. Is it Kamala sitting at the back there? Will you read?
Immortal bliss lives not in human health. How shall the mighty mother can on the light? Keep
fragment in this narrow, fragile vase. And lodge her sweet, unbroken stacey in hearts which yearly sorrow can assail, and bodies careless death can slay at birth.
Yes, that immortal bliss that you're longing for, it can't live here in this world that is governed by death, in this human air. You worship the mighty mother, he says, but how can she incarnate here in the world? She is full of calm delight. How will she be able to keep that, the perfume of that calm delight? How can she keep it in this narrow, fragile vase, which is the human body, which can so easily, it's so small, it's so limited, and it's so easily broken. How can it contain that wonderful fragrance of the mother's delight? Her ecstasy, how can that lodge? How can it even stay for a little while in hearts which are vulnerable, which can be attacked by earthly sorrow, and these bodies that careless death can slay at will, any time it can destroy them? How can the mighty mother's nature live within human bodies? Martin.
Dream not to change the world that God has planned. Strive not to alter His eternal law. If heavens there are, whose gates are shut to grief, there seek the joy thou couldst not find on earth. Or in the imperishable hemisphere, where light is native and delight is king, and spirit is the deathless ground of things, choose thy high station, child of eternity.
So, first he was telling her to go back to earth, but now he's telling her, now that she's shown her strength and power, he's saying, don't think that you can change this material world that God has planned, and don't bother yourself about trying to alter His eternal laws. Maybe there are higher levels of consciousness, heavens, where no grief can enter. The gates are shut to grief. There you can look for this joy that you couldn't find on earth. Or there's another hemisphere, not this lower hemisphere, that's an immortal hemisphere where light is native, there's no darkness, delight is king, spirit is the deathless ground, the whole basis of things. Choose to go and live there, you who are a child of eternity. Bhavana.
If thou spirit and nature is thy rule, cast off thy garb and be thy naked self, immutable in its undying truth, alone forever in the mute alone.
Yes, if you are really spirit, and if nature is the robe, the dress that your spirit has put on, well, just throw off that dress, no? Be yourself without any covering, forever unchanging in the immutable truth, in the undying truth of your spirit. Then you will be alone forever in the silent, alone, oneness, one without a second. Rosa.
Turn then to God. For Him, live out, be kind.
Forgetting love, forgetting Shraddhavan, annul thyself in his immobile peace. Also, drown in his still beauty.
Beatitude.
No?
2 more lines.
For thou must die to thyself to reach God's
height.
For I that am the gate of immortality.
Sounds so convincing. No? Annul thyself. Just dissolve yourself so that you no longer exist as an individual. Dissolve yourself in his unmoving peace. Drown in his still beatitude, his blissful silence. Because you, human individual, human soul, you will have to die to yourself, to your individuality, to be able to reach those divine heights. So I, death, I am the entrance way to the immortality of the spirit. Some great souls have listened to this voice and believed him. We'll see what Savitri has to answer next time. Anything to ask? Anybody wants to ask anything?
I mean, what Dev says here is very close to what Sri Aurobindo said. For instance, when he says in Savitri, in another passage, cast off thy mind, step back from form and name, and null thyself, that only God may be. It sounds exactly what Dev telling you.
Yeah. And that's what she's going to say him. Tell him. She says, look, you're deliberately distorting the things. Are you going to call in light to blind the eyes of truth? Make knowledge a snare of ignorance? The word, the divine word, a dart, a weapon to slay my living soul? Is that what you are trying to do? She can see through all this because she has the knowledge. It's not just a question of words for her. She has the living knowledge, the experience, the wisdom. She can see through all his... that he's just saying all this to make her go back, to give up her quest. That he does it himself, he doesn't believe it for a moment. He's ready to contradict himself at any time.
Look on these forms that stay a while and pass, these lives that long and strive, then are no more. These structures that have no abiding truth, the saviour creeds that cannot save themselves, but perish in the strangling hands of the years, discarded from man's thought, proved false by time. Philosophies that strip all problems bare, but nothing ever have solved since earth began. And sciences omnipotent in vain, by which men learn of what the suns are made, transform all forms to serve their outward needs, ride through the sky and sail beneath the sea, but learn not what they are or why they came. These polities, architectures of man's brain, that, bricked with evil and good, wall in man's spirit, and fissured houses, palace at once and jail, rot while they reign, and crumble before they crash. These revolutions, demon or drunken god, convulsing the wounded body of mankind, only to paint in new colours an old face. These wars, carnage triumphant, ruin gone mad, the work of centuries vanishing in an hour, the blood of the vanquished and the victor's crown, which men to be born must pay for with their pain. The hero's face divine on satyrs' limbs, the demon's grandeur mixed with the demigods, the glory and the beasthood and the shame. Why is it all, the labour and the din, the transient joys, the timeless sea of tears, the longing and the hoping and the cry, the battle and the victory and the fall, the aimless journey that can never pause, the waking toil, the incoherent sleep, song, shouts and weeping, wisdom and idle words, the laughter of men, the irony of the gods. Where leads the march? Whither the pilgrimage? Who keeps the map of the route, or planned each stage? Or else, self-moved, the world walks its own way? Or nothing is there, but only a mind that dreams? The world is a myth that happened to come true, a legend told to itself by conscious mind, imaged and played on a feigned matter's ground, on which it stands in an unsubstantial vast. Mind is the author, spectator, actor, stage. Mind only is, and what it thinks is seen. If mind is all, renounce the hope of bliss. If mind is all, renounce the hope of truth. For mind can never touch the body of truth, and mind can never see the soul of God. Only his shadow it grasps, nor hears his laugh as it turns from him to the vain seeming of things. Mind is a tissue woven of light and shade, where right and wrong have sown their mingled parts. Or mind is nature's marriage of convenance between truth and falsehood, between joy and pain. This struggling pair no court can separate. Each thought is a gold coin with bright alloy, and error and truth are its obverse and reverse. This is the imperial mintage of the brain, and of this kind is all its currency. Think not to plant on earth the living truth, or make of matter's world the home of God. Truth comes not there, but only the thought of truth. God is not there, but only the name of God. If self there is, it is bodiless and unborn. It is no one, and it is possessed by none. On what shalt thou then build thy happy world? Cast off thy life and mind, then art thou self, an all-seeing omnipresence, stark, alone. If God there is, he cares not for the world. All things he sees with calm, indifferent gaze. He has doomed all hearts to sorrow and desire. He has bound all life with his implacable laws. He answers not the ignorant voice of prayer. Eternal, while the ages toil beneath, unmoved, untouched by aught that he has made, he sees as minute details mid the stars the animal's agony and the fate of man. Immeasurably wise, he exceeds thy thought. His solitary joy needs not thy love. His truth in human thinking cannot dwell. If thou desirest truth, then still thy mind forever, slain by the dumb, unseen light. Immortal bliss lives not in human air. How shall the mighty mother her calm delight keep fragrant in this narrow, fragile vase, or lodge her sweet unbroken ecstasy in hearts which earthly sorrow can assail, and bodies careless death can slay at will? Dream not to change the world that God has planned. Strive not to alter His eternal law. If heavens there are whose gates are shut to grief, there seek the joy thou couldst not find on earth. Or in the imperishable hemisphere, where light is native, and delight is king, and spirit is the deathless ground of things, choose thy high station, child of eternity. If thou art spirit, and nature is thy robe, cast off thy garb, and be thy naked self, immutable in its undying truth, alone for ever in the mute alone. Turn then to God, for Him leave all behind. Forgetting love, forgetting Shraddhavan, annul thyself in His immobile peace. O soul, drown in His still beatitude, for thou must die to thyself to reach God's height. I, death, am the gate of immortality.